All right, welcome everyone. This is a Viper Professional Training and Support webinar. Today's date is March 28th, 2017. This is a Tuesday night webinar, and the title of tonight's webinar is Profitable Retrace Trades and Minor Breakouts. And as everyone knows that's been to our webinars or our live trading room, everything that we say and do at Viper Trading Systems is for educational purposes only. Futures trading, forex trading, any kind of financial instruments trading involves risk. Therefore, there's always risk of loss. You should only trade discretionary capital, and that's money that you can afford to lose. Nothing said in this webinar. Other webinars we might have, our live trading room or anything else with Viper Trading Systems, should never be construed as trading or investment advice. And as always, everyone does trade at their own sole discretion. Any questions on the disclaimer? If not, we'll go ahead and get started. By the way, just real quick, I'm going to go ahead and log in as a member just real quick and see if I can get to the webinars and everything. Bear with it a second. Hopefully it does. There we go. Nope, didn't get it. Sometimes Mozilla doesn't. Let me see if I can get to the members area. Bear with it. Just there we go. Okay. We are going to be changing a lot of this here probably in the next few weeks because obviously we've got a trading manual even for Object Trader. I think it's on the new member training part, and we're going to be changing a lot of that. So Object Trader's taken a full turn to a different direction, so we're going to be doing a lot of that. Okay, now what I want to show you real quick though is what we're going to be doing, and then I'll get right into the trades and everything, okay? Bear with me a second. I'm going to go ahead and bring up yeah, this is fine right here. What I want to show you is basically what we're going to add to Object Trader is going to be a trend line trader, okay? And a trend line trader, what you're going to really want to do is you're going to want to, look over your particular instrument and see, basically how many bars you end up getting before they do these rollovers. And I find that if they do pretty good little jaunts up, that you can pretty much draw trend lines underneath them. You want to be really careful going against the trend, and we're going to make the little trend line trader where it'll do against the trend if you want it to, but we're going to also have it to where it'll only draw the trend lines in the direction of the trend if you so desire and actually pull it up on your chart. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Under this require trend PM only, well, that's probably going to go away as far as PM only because we're going to require trend on a few other things too. If you click this, for instance, if you were even doing bar closes, you could actually just require trend only. Okay. And so anyway, if you did happen to draw a trend line, to give an example, then, let's say in this example right here, you would be looking like right about like this right now on a larger chart, I would think. And this is the way it would pretty much draw the trend line. Now, if it didn't, let's say that you had gotten in this one over here though instead, okay, and it drew it like this and you had chosen 6 or 7 candles, well, that might have given a scalp and it might not have. It looks like it probably did give a scalp. And then it would simply look again, and the way we're going to have it do is it's only going to draw the trend line when you pick the auto trend line on here, and then you're going to tell it how many bars you want it to form before it draws it. In other words, if you were saying you wanted it to form 6 bars, it wouldn't even start drawing the trend line yet because it's looking for down bar, down bar, down bar. That's 3. There's a 4th one trying to happen, but if you went for 6, it would probably be somewhere down in here before it would ever draw the trend line. Okay, so that's kind of exciting. I'm looking forward to that. And the way we're going to do it, it's not going to just willy-nilly take the trades. It's basically going to draw the trend lines, and then you're going to choose whether or not to turn these on. Okay, because it'll draw it. For instance, let's say that this was 6 bars. It'll start drawing it, but it's going to be up to you to say, you know what, I think I'd like that trade. Okay, And you'll be able to do it if you want to leave it on. We'll still have that too. Tom says, how do you determine how many bars? Well, Tom, that's actually a really good question because, you know, on a trend line, the thing is about trend lines, as a rule, you get like an A, B, C, right? But this isn't the type of trend line that I'm talking about here. You know, it would be more based on, let's say that you had chosen 6. It would have gone 3, 4, 5, 6. It would have drawn this trend line right here, and it would have fired on that bar, and that did give a scalp. Okay. Then, you know, for instance, if you went to break even and it was out of that trade, then it will just simply go away and it'll look for the next trade. If this goes 6 bars, you know, if you had chosen 6 here, then it'll look for that one too. And you will be able to leave this on if you want to. And then you could move it too. Absolutely, that's the beauty of it too. It's just simply going to draw on your chart. Okay, now another thing that's going to draw on your chart very shortly too is going to be the region trade. The region trade, as we have it right now, you have to click Insert. Okay, you have to move it wherever you want it, you know, however you want it. Okay, and then you have to, pardon me, you have to activate it, and we're going to do away with that particular phase of it. But we are going to have it to where it automatically, when you go to region, these will be turned off. So in other words, let's say that I was looking for a trade. Let's say maybe I thought I could bounce off support, for instance, okay? And I wanted to go long at the bottom, something like this. That would give me time to go ahead and do it, wouldn't it? But the minute I activate this, if this was to have popped out, that would fire that trade long because I've got it outside touch +2. And if it comes down there and touches the bottom, it would also fire it. Okay? So I think that's going to make it a lot easier to use than it is now. Because, you know, to give an example, you notice in the room, we'll talk about boxing in, okay? But you'll notice that little box changes. You know, like you may get a little lightning, and then all of a sudden you get a really tight consolidation. And that's when you want to go ahead and resize your box. Okay, so I think that's going to really help us too. Now I want to bring up one other thing too. When you actually go to your wedge trade, I found out something from the programmer today, and I was kind of wondering if this is the way he designed this. Let's say that you were to put a wedge on, well, let's just redraw Object Trader first. Let me just do that, and we'll get right into some trades here in a minute. But let's just go ahead and redraw Object Trader, okay, where it's going to go to region automatically. Okay, if you put a wedge on this chart like that, and then put this on wedge, it does not recognize that wedge. Okay, for one thing, when you first start or you restart a chart, you have to get a bar close. Okay, that's number one that has to happen. And the other thing that has to happen is that you actually select wedge before you ever draw the wedge. Because, see, according to him, if you just have, you know, drawn all over your chart, to give an example, before you ever start a wedge trader, it doesn't know about those that are back here. It just knows about the one when you turned it on wedge. Okay, so, and I'm going to have him working on that algorithm to make sure that it just literally fires the moment we want it to, okay, because that's going to be very, very important to me. All right, but let's see if we can get a little trade based on what we just talked about. I'm going to do an auto trend line and just see, not an auto trend line, I'll just do a trend line and see if we can get something. All right, I'm going to go ahead and speed this up just a little bit. And we're in wedge mode, so I'm going to let that go ahead and close the bar. Okay, so let's see if we can get us a little wedge drawn. Now see, you only had 1, 2, 3, 4, so I'm not going to draw it yet. Let's see if we can get something here. Yeah, we could if you want to. You want to just go ahead and just draw it across the tops of these? That's fine too. Let's try it. Somebody said, let's draw it across the tops. Something like that. That's not a wedge, is it? Yeah, that's a wedge. All right, and then we'll turn that on. Okay, so if a wedge has fired, do you have to unselect wedge and reselect it, drop down, and then draw a new line? can you develop it to draw a trend line and look for it coming out of a predictor? Well, the predictor trade, Dan, on your question, is going to actually be a trade all its own. There's a little trade, by the way. See how many bars that is? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's try that. And I'll draw it across. Since these are 4 range bars, we'll draw it like that. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and take a few. And hopefully this is going to do exactly what I said it was going to do. We drew the wedge after a bar had closed. And so let's see if it'll fire. If it doesn't keep heading down. Let's see, on the predictors get squishy when you spread the chart out. Edward, on your question, if you spread the chart out, is that what you're getting at there? I'm not real sure. Okay, let's see if that actually fires. That's making a liar out of my programmer just real quick, unless it's going to do it on this bar. Let's see if it does. That should fire. It did fire. Good. Okay. All right, so we're in the trade. We're going to put our stop just below the little swing with exit on close just in case. Okay. All right, so that wedge did fire. Now, like I said, the way this would do, let's just count these trades so far. You had one here that would actually fire if you had set it for 6. You would have gotten a scalp. This one's at least 6, and you're getting a scalp. You may not, but we've got our stop in, so we don't care. And let's see if we can get a little scalp. Yeah, it looks like it's definitely going to scalp it. Now, I have my trigger where I don't go to break even automatically, but if you want to, you can put that like on, say, 12 to give an example. And well, that shouldn't have gone to break even just then. That's probably because I just turned it on. I'll go ahead and go to break even now. But if you leave that triggered at 12, if it goes to 12 ticks, it will go ahead and go to break even on your trigger. I don't personally like the break even as much because I like to kind of let a trade wiggle around a little bit, because that's where you get the best, you know, bang for your buck, really. Okay, let's see. Now draw a new ray to see if it will fire again with that. Okay. Like that. We'll add 4 more if it does. Of course, it may hit that target there. It did. Of course, you might not want 6, obviously. We'll really tighten our stop just in case. Exit on close. Now, that's a good question, though. Let's try something else just real quick. I'm going to deselect wedge, go to region. Let's just get these out of the way for a minute. We don't care what they do. We're trying to figure out what this is going to do here. All right, let's draw a ray and see if it will fire again with drawing the ray ahead of time and see. Now, keep in mind, I wouldn't do this in real because obviously you don't want 8 contracts with it being up here yet. But I want to see if that'll fire because we drew the ray before we selected wedge. Let's see if it does. Because it may be just more the bar close possibly that he's trying to tell me. If this fires, we'll know because I drew that after or before I change it to wedge. Now, if it goes back under it, it will fire. I have noticed that, though. See how that one went back under the wedge and then fired? It will do that, but if that would have gone straight through, I don't think it would have fired without actually selecting this first. That's a pretty good little trade, by the way. I don't want 8, do we? Now, keep in mind, I can't sell 4, right? Because I've got to turn this on. We're doing away with that. I'm going to be able to sell as many as I want without ever turning this on. because I wouldn't leave 4 on and let this thing come back 10 ticks. That's dumb. You know, if you've got 8 contracts and it comes back 10 ticks, what is that? $400. Let's see, right, that helps wedge selected plus future raise. Yes. Let's try it. Since that kind of double topped, let's try something else here. We're also fixing this too. Notice how this says stop 4 and that says 8. Well, that's because this is just a stop line. Okay, but we're fixing this to where you won't have to do this to turn it off and back on. Well, it went ahead and took the trade out. Okay, so we'll actually fix that. Let's try something else here. I see a probably a little late. I was trying to draw it right there, but too late. Everybody see how you can see those trend lines in real time? But if you miss it, you just missed it. I wouldn't go fire in a market order, but I probably would have taken that trade on a wedge break simply because it broke a trend line. And you can scalp those. They're amazingly able to be scalped. Okay, we'll try it again if we get another. See, that went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at least. We could have drawn it. You want to try it that way? Let's try it this way then. All right, there's 6. Close above. Can you repeat how to draw the wedge line, CG? Sure. The way you draw a wedge line is you just simply select ray on your toolbar. See, like right now I've got a ray on the chart. I've got it drawn along my highs here with the wicks. On a 4-range bar, you're going to want to do that with like a large Renko. You can draw literally tight with the bodies because it won't really matter. Because when it closes above it, see, like I could tighten this up like right now to give an example and still see if we can get this trade. You want to see if we can scalp it? Let's just see if we can scalp it. It's taken out predictor. I don't really like the way that it's taken out predictor because usually when they do that, they could very well be starting to change trends. They tried over here, but they did a phantom. You don't do 2 phantoms in a row. But let's see if a trend line will actually work though, just for the fun of it. Okay, didn't fire yet. Closed on the other side of it. This one closes, it should fire. There you go. See how many bars is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's enough, isn't it? That's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's try it again. See if we get anything. You're getting a vertical line, not an angle. CG, on your question, now let's see, that was above the price, so that should be technically my ray to the downside because I was above and going below, so that'd be that one. I'm going to go ahead and turn this one on too, just in case. So I was kind of afraid of that. Okay, so what did I do wrong, everyone? Let's see here. Well, for one thing, we've got a ray here. Let's get rid of it. And let's reposition this ray and see if we can get this trade. Check your shift key, Mikkel says, because you should actually have right here. See, this one's a line right here that you draw. Sorry about that. This is a line like that. That's not the one that counts. Okay? If you're in one of Charles's webinars, if he draws on a chart, just understand you still have to use the tools the way they're designed in Object Trader, okay? Because this won't do it, okay? It has to be this ray right here. And that's what this is. The ray just goes on forever at whatever angle you set it at. And we'll see if we can get a trade. We'll go for another scalp since this is just sideways. You know, we had a tool a long time ago. People that are with us, do you remember the Trendline Trader? The Viper Trendline Trader? That'll bring back some old memories. Some of you, okay. What that was actually a little trader that you could draw a trend line on the chart and it would go ahead and take the trade, but it didn't really have any, what I consider, control over it. Now, if that fires here, I don't really like it as much, but unfortunately, with a 4-range bar, that's what it's going to do. Let's see if it fires at all. It didn't touch the line on either side. I have noticed one thing. You can draw a line that will not actually, with the angle, if you look at bars, that won't actually touch it. Let's see if it fires anyway, just for the fun of it. Yeah, okay, we're still okay then. All right, so maybe that was the problem with the wedge all along, because you know, when I was setting it up for the first trade of the day, I was usually drawing a line array and then turning on my wedge, and it will not fire that one. Now it will, if it actually goes through it, back through it again the same way you want it, it will fire. Now that shouldn't be actually active right now on this right here. That's something that the programmer is going to have to work on, because that should have turned to disabled. And that's important that that goes to disabled, because if it doesn't go to disabled, if it hovers around that line, it could fire your max number of contracts. You know, in other words, if you got like right on the line and it just, let's say there was a bunch of orders there and it just kept ticking around that line, that would keep firing that trade. So that's something he's going to have to nail very, very quickly. I'd probably put my stop on this one just above here, just in case this is actually still going to go up instead. And I would probably also, if it did happen to break this little swing, I'd probably reverse it. Yeah, I don't like the idea that SE would stay on at all. So everybody that's in the webinar tonight, be sure and remember that. You know, if you're doing like your live account, make sure you turn that thing off yourself if you have to until we fix that. Because when that was on the chart, like let's say we change from wedge to region, region to wedge, and then put it back on. Let's try something here. See if it turns off. Maybe that's because both of these are selected. Let's see if it does it that way. If it is, I'll get with the programmer tonight. It's going to chop around now. Let's see if we can get this trade. Not saying that this is the way you trade. I want to see if it'll fire it. Because these webinars are for educational purposes, plus they're also for us all to, you know, learn how to use this thing, plus find anything that doesn't work right on it too. Because remember, this last version we sent out is basically a beta. Let's see, does it have to do with the dots showing? Try clicking on the chart to get rid of them. No, we've actually checked that, but that's a good point. Let's see if it, so in other words, you're saying with the ray with the dots on it, if that'll stay on, because it doesn't know if the ray's inactive. We'll find out. So we've got 4 on. That should give us 8 if it closes below. See if we get 8. And that should go off. Up there it's SE. It didn't go off. Okay, maybe that is it. Let's try that real quick. I'm going to do it one more time. And I'm going to turn one of them off and see if it turns off. Because we may have just fixed the little glitch. Let's see, Dan, on your question, yeah, I actually had some really good conversations with the programmer, and he's telling me that all of the trades that I talked to him about, he's going to try to have done for me this weekend. And if he can actually get that done, then of course I'll be testing it and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we've got 8. We don't care about, I'm not really caring about the number of contracts. I'm trying to see if this will actually turn that off if we just have 1 selected, because Diane may have figured that out. Or with the dots showing even. We'll find that out. Let's see first if it'll fire and get rid of this. And then we'll see if it's the dots. Because if it's the dots, that's real easy for him to fix, I'm sure. I'm going to have to speed this up. It's a little slow. We're going to have 12 if that closes. Don't get me wrong. We wouldn't trade 12. I just want to see if this thing will shut this off like it's supposed to. And it didn't shut it off. Okay, so once it quits shutting it off, that's taking it out of a loop, I've got a feeling. So let's kill this trade. Let's go back into Reload Ninja Script. And now let's see if it turns off, because that's some kind of a loop that it's breaking. But it didn't give an error on Ninja. So it's not in the code, but it's probably still something miswritten. So let's try this again. I'm going to get rid of all wedges. We'll select wedge. We'll just go ahead and do that break if it happens to break. See if we can get it. Now keep in mind, what I'm really checking on more than anything is how this is firing, because we've got to get this to where this does go off every single time. It's super, super important. Okay, so it went off the first time. Let's turn it back on with the 3 dots and see if that makes it quit. No. So it's getting out of some kind of a loop. I'll just tell him he's just going to have to look in the code and see what it is. Same as region, once out of the loop, it will not turn off, Chris says. Okay, well, it's because of the fact that when this was all added with these autos and everything, there's something that he's got in the code that he's going to have to fix. Okay. So what I would do personally would be to go into the strategy itself, make sure on your max contracts, don't have it anywhere high like that. Okay. For instance, if you're used to doing only like 3 contracts, then set that at 3. Okay, and we will get that that taken care of. All right, well, we got a monster trade, but now let's see if we can get, what was the name of the webinar tonight? Retracement trades, right? Let's see if we can get a retracement trade. Remember, if you miss a thrust, what do you got to do? You got to wait for the retracement trade. See if we can get one. Get the pullbacks, Ed says. That's exactly right. Retraces are super, super important, aren't they? And always look to the left to trade the right. But keep in mind, when they thrust like this, I like to look at stealth to get in, and I also like to look at trend lines. So let's see if we can get one. I'm going to do wedge. A bar's already closed, so we're going to do a ray. And we'll just try 3. And we're drawing the ray right along the bottoms of the bars. So there's 5 now. There's 5. How to judge how far the retrace goes, CG? Well, one thing that I personally like that you'll find works quite well is basically if you can draw usually 5 or 6 bars at least. Now, I don't like the fact that if it touches the line, we're not going to get in until this bar closes. But if that's the case, you pretty much got to put your stop above just in case they do an ABC. Let's see if we get that one. Yeah, we got it. Do we want it? Well, let's look to the left to trade the right and see where we'd put our stop. You got a big swing over here to the left. Yeah, I'd put my stop just above that just in case. Exit on close. Yeah, usually if you don't wait for an ABC, you'll probably feel some heat on a trade. I like to draw on my charts, and I'd probably be looking to get in a little bit more close to that white line. Well, CG, on your question, the new auto trend line will actually wait however many bars you tell it to. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be like the holy grail of anything, but I have found that, you know, when you get these little bitty moves, you know, like let's say for instance right here, okay, you got a little thrust retrace, so that negates the count, right? You got a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 3 bars, that negates the count. Then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That would make that count start, wouldn't it? If you had chosen the auto trend line with 6 bars. That's what we found out works quite well. I'm not saying 6 necessarily. It depends on the size of bars you use. Okay? Because what you're really looking for more than anything is you don't want to draw a trend line like thrust retrace and draw your trend line like this. I don't want the script to do that. I want it to start counting. 1, 2, bar goes down, quit the count, never draw. Start to count again, 1, 2, 3, 4, down bar, never draw the trend line. See what I mean? And then here's again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Draw the trend line automatically, and you'd be in on that bar, probably right there. Let's see, does it matter if you draw the ray first before I load wedge? Yes, Chris, I was just saying that a little bit earlier. You've got to draw. I found out from the programmer today, there's 3 things that you really need to do when you draw your wedge. First off, if you just start your charts up, you got to wait for a bar to close. Then what you want to do is you want to actually select wedge before you actually put a wedge on the chart. Because what the deal is, the object trader doesn't know that the wedge is here before it's ever turned to wedge. Okay? Now, like I said though, if it does happen to, you know, miss going through it and then it kind of goes back up and then back through, it will still fire it, even if you didn't put it on first, because it's going to finally figure out where the prices are and on the wedge because of the closed bar too. Wow, look at that trade. Everybody, what do you think on that? You want to try it again and see if we can get a good retrace? Let's count the bars. Count the bars. Now, like I said, I wouldn't recommend as much going against the trend, and I'll show you why. Let's try one just for the fun of it. I'm going to go ahead and close this, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6. This is not what I'd recommend doing. Now, if you're going to do this trade, here's the way I would do it. I would do a close. I would do like 4, and I'd select like 5. Because that's a downtrend, right? And we're not necessarily going to get anything on it. Matter of fact, it may stop us out. Okay? That closed above just a little bit. Let's see, that's below the prices, so let's see. That should actually be my, I'll turn this on even. Let's see if one of them gets it. Just for the fun of it, let's see if it does a 6 type. Now, like I say, I probably wouldn't take this actual trade right here, but let's try it for the fun of it. I have found that 5-tick trades work quite often if you just draw a trend line. It's got to close that second bar, though. I don't like that. See, because this bar mathematically probably didn't close. See, it didn't close on the other side of it. That's why. Now that bar did though. So shouldn't that have fired that? Then let's see. Okay, we're going to have to go more of a break. Let's see if we can get it. And we've got, let's get rid of this one ray too, just in case it's trying to calculate off that. And we'll get rid of this one. Nice, should really help trade entry. I think so, Chris. I really do. The bar didn't go through. It didn't go through it. Well, it did on that one that was wick though, but it never touched it, did it? It actually went on both sides of it. And that, like I say, that's something that I've got to get, you know, the programmer to really figure out how no matter where you draw that wedge, it figures out where it's at. Because otherwise, you know, we don't want it to hit and miss at all. Let's see if we can get something. We're on wedge. We're above the prices right now, right? Well, it should fire either way, actually, because it's an inside button long, and it's a, there you go, okay. Let's see if it gets 5 ticks for the fun of it. Just trying a trend line break is all we're doing here. Where would you probably put your stop? Well, if you put it right underneath the swing, you're going to get stopped out, I'll bet you. I don't think I'd leave it at 17, though. Would you? I'd probably put it somewhere right in through there with exit on close, just in case, because I'm willing to lose 8 to gain 5. That's not what you call really good trading to begin with, but I just want to see if that trend line will work even against the trend, which I find they do quite a bit. But I would recommend simply going with the trend, okay? And I'll show you how to draw it next. Everybody can already see the trade, right? Where's the trade at? Retracement trade, right? It's at the mid band. So let's see if we can get it. I'll get rid of all the lines on the chart. You want to see if this one will work out? Okay. I was going to kill it because I don't like the way it's doing. But we'll go ahead and see if we can get 5 ticks. Ouch. Whoa, that was close. Wicked it. Got it. Okay. Everybody see the trade now, though? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What do you think? You want to go ahead and try it? I like an ABC myself, and with 4 range bars, they're a little tougher. Let's just try it that way. Okay, we're above the line, so it should be the bottom button, close of the bar, would fire the trade. Let's see if it does. That is a beautiful retrace trade, by the way. That was a high energy time too, wasn't it? Now let's look at this one and see why it didn't really fire. Yeah, it didn't ever close below it, did it? Close right on the line, so we're going to have to wait on that bar to close, unfortunately. Now what you can do if you see this happening in real time, you can always wait for it to do like an ABC or even box it in with the wedge. Well, we got it, so I guess we're okay. Where would we put our stop? Let's look. You got a high, a low, a high, lower, low. That's pretty high stop. I'd probably put it just above predictor, because predictors usually don't get taken out if they're going to head down. Let's see if we can scalp it, just for the fun of it. Does anybody remember? I'm pretty sure we called that trade in the room this morning. Didn't I have that one drawn? It's looking familiar. Of course, charts always look familiar. They do the same thing over and over. But that was after we opened the room, remember? Oh, actually, Mark says he even grabbed it. All right, I did draw it then. We did draw it. Okay, now what if I actually wanted, since this is doing a little ABC, what if I wanted some more if it just even touched below my line? See, I can do that on the fly. Unless I get stopped out here, we'll find out here in a minute. Close to stopping us out. I got the down close it predictor. Okay. I find that usually these predictors, if they're really going to head down, that top of that predictor will hold. We'll see if I'm right on this. You want to just leave it there? Just leave it right above predictor right there. Touch +2, it'll add 4 more because I don't have it waiting on close. Had your stop just above predictor by 1 tick, Mark? Like I say, I find those predictors, when they're heading down, those predictors will hold. And when they start heading up, what happens? They break the predictors. Everybody see how to use this on some good retracement trades? Pretty cool. What if we wanted to do, instead of the wedge, we wanted to do the PM trade instead when that power meter goes green? You can do that also, and you can change it on the fly. Notice that I didn't get in 4 more because I changed it to PM before that ever closed below that wedge. That's how quick you can do on the fly stuff with Object Trader. And where will it fire? Let's look and see. Well, right now, unless we get a bar up, it's going to be all the way under here. I don't like that. If this bar closes up, then it'll be just under the bar. We'll see what it does. If that bar closes up, we're going to be okay on a PM trade. Yeah. Yep. Because it's going to take the trade right across there. Should be PM trade. There you go. PM trade. Now, what's a PM trade? A PM trade is a little breakout trade, right? Okay, notice that I've got 8 on here. Well, I can't, unfortunately, split this up because we have just one target, so we're probably going to have to go ahead and take our coin. If we had several targets, we could go ahead and change that. Yeah, and there's no way around that, unfortunately. That's something else I want to add to Object Trader, but my program is saying basically cool it, once we get these done for a while, because, the more you make it complex, obviously, the more chances are for little loops to get broken and things like that. There we go, we got it. Okay, want to see if we can get another one? What do you think? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see, that's 1, 2, 3. That would negate the count unless this one goes, no, that one went down, so that would negate the count. And like I say, I don't like this little trade here as much because that's like almost a 45-degree angle, and you just don't get that much out of that trade. Everybody see why on that? You just don't get that much on it. Okay, you double bottomed. Let's try another type trade. That one's at the bottom, so if they take it out, we'll just, yeah, just for a breakout if it happens to do that. So I'm going to go long, short, and we'll do close. Checked my trend line, didn't it? I don't really want that trend line. Let me get it out of the way. Well, we can do that trend. Well, it's already breaking now, so we already got two. Let's try another one. For 5 ticks. Let's see what we get here. Just trying trend line breaks. There's one, okay. Will it give us 5 ticks? We'll find out. Got our 5 ticks. Now I'd redraw this since it's actually got a little top here. I'll probably draw it more like that in case this decides to break up. And you could even draw it like this, thrust, retrace, thrust. You could draw it like this too. Like that. So, well, let's see. Yeah, we got 3 on there, so we're not using this one just right yet. Does anybody remember this morning? Didn't we hit 73, 75 like a bunch of times? Trend lines can make you some money though. I've played around with these things so much, it's just incredible. Now what we're doing right now is playing with lesser bars, but just more like a little trend line break. But when we put the auto trend line trader on here, you're going to really look more at those larger moves, like when they go at least, 6 or 8, however many you choose. It's going to be up to you what you want to put the new auto trend line trader on. Now, if you just scalp only, I think you can pretty much use, say, 5 probably. Let's see if we can get another one. I missed it. Everybody sees where though, right? Doesn't mean it'll do anything though. Got your medium swing right across here. See which one we get. Can you have 2 active? Absolutely. That's why it's called a wedge trader. The reason that we designed it to be called a wedge trader is because of those times that you get like, like a wedge, like a triangle. Now, if that happens to roll over, we're going to get a short, and if it happens to blow up through that top, we're going to get a long. Everybody see why we did this, by the way? We called this in the room this morning, a low, a high, higher low, higher high. Over here, it was just a high. There you go, you got it. Over here, it was just a high, a low, no lower high, then a low, same low. So it was like a double bottom. So you start your count over. High, low, higher high, right? So we're starting to, kind of break to the upside. And of course, your target would be right up in this area, right up in here, where they broke down. And you could keep moving this if you wanted to, and just keep your stop underneath the swing, just in case it decides to come back. Everybody see how cool you can do on this? Now, I'm not going to do anything except let this thing go for a few minutes, and then I want everybody to tell me where to draw the line. We're already in this trade, but if we get stopped out, what I want everybody to do is tell me where you would draw your line, because we're going to talk about where to draw retracement trades. How'd the CL trade work out this morning? CL was great. We bounced off a predictor. I can actually show that before we wrap the room up tonight. Now, when they do this like this, okay, they're checking this little swing. See how they wicked it? I'd bring my stop just underneath that wick, exit on close. Everybody see why? because that's like a lightning swing. And when they double them like that, see what they do? You get a little high, a little low, a little higher high, and what do? They wick that. Now, this doesn't mean that they won't take me out, but that's where I'm going to put my stop, because this is still a downtrend until this decides to change this mid-band. Okay, let's let it run a minute, and let's see if we can get another trade. Had one contract left on them. Which one, Chris? I've got 4 left on this one right now. Of course, you know what you could do, don't you? You can use this as a stop also. Four contracts short would take you out of the trade, right? Instead of shorting it, we'll just take it off. Remember, I'm pretty sure I even called this trade in the room this morning. It looks awful familiar to where we just simply said if it did the power meter to the downside, now I'd redraw my line like this since it didn't take us out. It's a good trend line now, though. Anytime you get a little thrust and retrace, it's a good trend line. Because if you looked at larger bars, you'd see a wick there. Now that should have closed us out. That should have closed us out. See if it'll get us out of it. Still okay. I think that went on both sides of the line, didn't it? Well, you can tell we're about to run out of thrust. But does anybody want to tell me where to put the next trade? Because you should be able to already see it if you've been learning retracement trades like we teach. Anybody? Let me show you how to read these charts in real time so you can actually see it. Let's look at it. Okay, you had a little thrust, pullback, big thrust. So right there on top of that, right, would look like a pullback. Let's see. And you don't want to go any lower than right here. So you had a thrust, retrace, thrust. Should hit its head right in here somewhere. And your midline should actually follow it. And we're looking for a predictor. So let's see if we can get a trade here. Whoops, sorry about that. Is that going to close my trade out or not? See, it didn't touch the line here, and this has not closed. So I guess we're just in limbo trying to get out of the trade if this bar closes down. And it didn't get it out. So it's probably out of a loop of some kind. Evidently, let's try it on a touch. Let's see if it does it on a touch even. Touch. We'll do a touch +1. I want to see if it's anything to do with the close or what I need to tell the programmer. Everybody see the trade setting up right before your eyes though? Look at that predictor. So couldn't you be ready to take this trade again? I'll bet this is out of a loop if that doesn't close that trade out. I'm going to close it manually if it doesn't. And I'll bet we don't get the next trade because it's somehow out of a loop. That was 1 tick though, by the way. It's not 2. And remember, it has to be actually how many, everyone? 3, right? Well, actually it's 1, so it's going to be 2. There's 1, there's 2. It did flatten it. Okay. All right, let's look and see. Everybody see the trade? Setting up before your very eyes. We don't know if it's going to work, but we know that it's a trade that's setting up, don't we? Draw you a line at predictor. Draw you a trend line. Like so. And let's see if we can get, Let's see if we get through that line. I'm going to draw this a little bit tighter here. Remember how we used to do those Y's, like your ABC? You can actually do that with this. That would be my bottom line, that would be my top line, so I'd need to do that. Touch +1, will it get it in? Did not. Okay, so is it going to do this one instead? Nope, we're out of a loop somehow. Anyway, see where it came down perfectly to predictor? Now that trade is going to be available for you, I'm hoping, next week. See why that did not fire. If I put it here manually, will it? I'm not saying to take this here because we've only got up to here to go. I just want to see if I can make it fire. I'm not understanding why it's not. I will tell my programmer to watch this portion of the webinar. Yeah, it fired then. That's a heck of a lousy trade there, Object Trader. We don't like that one, do we, everyone? Let's try it the opposite way then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we double top, that is. No place to go. Let's see, do you have to turn wedge off and on again? That's a possibility, Chris, but I don't think so. I don't think so. We're breaking our little wedge. You want to just try a quick 5-tick trade or something like that? Let's redraw it. Look at your T and B. Oh yeah, that'd make a big difference, wouldn't it? Thank you. That'd make a huge difference. If I want this, let's just go for the gusto, but we're going to reverse it if it takes out that line for a quick scalp. If it takes out the line. Because that's the type of trade this new trader is going to look for. You're going to be able to tell it how many bars you want it to do, and it's going to count them, and then it'll look for that trade. There you go. Trend lines work, don't they? And especially if you happen to draw them correctly. Now, you could even see that you could actually draw another trend line right here, right? Is that right across there? If you wanted to, in case it breaks this little support here. And you could draw another one on top. Well, it already got it. Probably right across here, just in case it decided to go the upside. Well, we already got our 5 ticks. Okay? Not too shabby. And watch it drop 100 ticks now. Remember that trade this morning? Anybody? Remember where we got it? Well, let's watch for it. This webinar is about retracement trades, and I'm almost through. Because if you miss a thrust, what are you looking for, everyone? Well, you got a mid-band that went magenta. You got to get a predictor. You got to have some bars go to the upside to hit a predictor. And let's see if we can get a trend line trade. Did you get the retrace into, does it actually go into predictor then? I don't know. Well, there is predictor right there. Now keep in mind on a 4-range bar that they can have a bar go down where a bigger bar never went down. Okay, that's why I like to use this personally on a little bit larger bar. We're going to try it right here anyway. That looks like a change of direction, so I'm going to go ahead and go for some profit. Anytime they start stair-stepping, you know, not sideways, you're looking more into some decent trades. There you go. Everybody see how to do that? See how that hit predictor? Now that new predictor trade that we're going to actually have on Object Trader, that would fire that trade automatically. Because what we're going to do is we're going to have Object Trader look for a predictor. It's basically drawing a line in its mind. Okay? And then what it's going to do after that, let's say that you said X ticks from predictor. Say you said 2 ticks from predictor. Well, when it gets within 2 ticks of predictor and that bar closes back, it'll fire the trade. We'll also have another one that does power meters. Now, power meter on this particular one, since this dropped like a stone, does anybody know where power meter would have fired on this particular trade? Anybody? Draw your lightning and you'll see it. Let me get this out of the way. Right under there. Everybody see that? Now, I don't like that as much because, like say, a power meter trade is more of a breakout, but you still got a heck of a trade on that one. Right? So not too shabby, right? Let's see. Get another one. You want to try one more? And then we'll have to wrap. Okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not enough. 1, not enough. 1, 2, 3, 4. Still not enough. But we'll go ahead and draw underneath it. Yep, missed that one. Everybody see where I was trying to draw that? Where the wedge would have taken that trade? We may get another chance. 1, 2. I get this going about 10 times. There's 3, 4, or 3. 1, 2, 3. Nope, only 3. Okay, let's start our count again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. Let's go for that one. We're going to see if this will work. I think I missed it. Let's see if we can get it. And we'll, we're already short 4, so let's just try it and see if it'll get it. Everybody see that? See how I counted that? This one negated it, this one negated it, this one negated it, and that one finally got enough bars. If you had chosen the new auto trend line, that you'll tell it how many bars you want to go. Okay, and you'll be able to change that on the fly. So if you see that they're breaking trend lines at like 5 bars instead, then you'll be able to quickly say, you know what, I want 5 bars. Because when it's in auto trend line, this will be the number of the bars. It won't have anything to do with an offset. Now, when it's in the new PM trade, or pardon me, the predictor trade, this is going to be an offset. So each object type will tell it what to do, and we'll write a manual accordingly. Okay? So in other words, if you're in auto trend line, you're going to tell it, I want X number of bars. This is going to be bars. And I may even have it to where he somehow, when you're in auto trend line mode, this is going to actually say 5B for bars. And then when you're in regular, it would just say 0 or 1, 2, 3, 4 or whatever. Okay? I think that would be a pretty smart way to do it. Okay? What do you think about trend lines? You think you'll like those? They can definitely work. All right. I didn't get to explain everything I wanted to about retrace trades, but I think it went over quite a bit, so everybody should be kind of up to date on some of this. We're going to definitely still have to work on getting those entries on those wedges much better, but that's what programming is all about. He'll nail it. I still use it, and when they don't fire, I just simply, adjust my line unless it's actually too far, and then you'll get it. But anyway, be sure and just do it kind of in sim mode until we get any kinks out of it, because this is brand new stuff that we've added. Okay, everyone? Thanks, and we'll see you in the morning. Bye, everyone. Good night.